But what if those very qualities, your greatest strengths, are precisely why you're a target for manipulators? This video uncovers the surprising link between your compassion and why those seeking control are drawn to you. You would think strength protects you, that emotional intelligence, maturity, empathy, and independence would act as a shield. But in the world of dark psychology, those very traits don't repel manipulators, they attract them. Because manipulators are not drawn to weakness. They are drawn to supply. And strong women provide the richest supply of all. Emotional predators study human nature the way hunters study patterns. They look for three things: depth, consistency, and emotional generosity. And strong women often carry all three. They are good listeners, good forgivers, and they have the emotional stamina to hold relationships together. That makes them valuable, not loved, not respected, valuable. To a manipulator, emotional intelligence is not a sign of power but a map. Empathy becomes an entry point. Kindness becomes a lever. Loyalty becomes a binding rope. They look for women who feel deeply, who understand complexity, who communicate thoughtfully. Not because they appreciate these qualities, but because they can weaponize them. In dark psychology, the equation is brutally simple. Strength equals supply source. The stronger the woman, the more emotional energy she carries. And manipulators feed on emotional energy. Attention, validation, admiration, forgiveness, caretaking, and emotional labor. They know that strong women can endure more, give more, support more. To them, this isn't love, it's fuel. Manipulators are extremely good at reading microexpressions, the small flicker of hesitation in your eyes, the softening of your voice when you care, the moment your boundaries bend. They watch how you react to disappointment, how quickly you forgive, how deeply you understand. These microreactions reveal your emotional structure, and once they know that structure, they start building their strategy. They also look for attachment wounds, places where you have been loyal for too long, forgiving past the point of logic, or carrying responsibility that never belonged to you. Strong women often come from environments where they had to be strong for others, where emotional support wasn't a choice but a survival skill. Manipulators sense this history. They know exactly how to trigger the part of you that believes, if I just love enough, support enough, stay long enough, I can fix this. That belief is their doorway. Narcissists, sociopaths, and emotional manipulators all share one trait. They seek partners who elevate their image and stabilize their chaos. Strong women do both. They offer emotional grounding, they provide social value, and they make the manipulator appear more admirable by association. This is why strong women are considered high-value targets. They are stable enough to hold the relationship together while the manipulator destabilizes it. A strong woman's empathy allows her to see the good in people. A manipulator counts on that. Her loyalty makes her stay longer than she should. A manipulator amplifies that. Her independence means she doesn't need him for anything, except the one thing he knows how to provide: emotional confusion disguised as connection. And so the paradox becomes clear. It isn't weakness that draws manipulators to strong women. It's strength. Because strong women have what manipulators want most: a heart that doesn't give up easily. Manipulators don't stumble into your life by accident. They study you long before you realize you're being watched. In dark psychology, this phase is known as target assessment, the quiet, calculated moment when a predator decides whether you have the emotional resources they want. And the strategy they use is far more sophisticated than most people ever imagine. The first tool in their playbook is mirroring. Mirroring is not affection, it is imitation. A manipulator listens to your tone, your values, your insecurities, your dreams, and reflects them back to you as if you finally met someone who gets you. They align their jokes with your humor, their stories with your past, their interests with your passions. Every emotion you express is observed and replicated. This creates a powerful illusion. You think you've found compatibility. They are simply building a mask. Mirroring works because trust is easier to give to someone who feels familiar, someone who feels like you. But what you're connecting to is not their personality, It's your own being used against you. The second strategy is breadcrumbing. Unlike love bombing, which floods you with intensity, breadcrumbing is about control. A manipulator gives just enough attention to keep you emotionally invested, never more, never less. A warm message after a cold silence. A compliment after criticism. A moment of closeness followed by withdrawal. Breadcrumbing conditions you to crave their validation. You start waiting for the next drop of affection, believing that if you're patient enough, consistent enough, loyal enough, you'll finally receive love in full. This isn't love. It's behavioral conditioning. Next comes trauma pattern scanning. This is the most dangerous part because it is the most subtle. Manipulators don't look for wounds to heal, they look for wounds to use. They pay attention to how you speak about your past, the betrayal you forgave too easily, the family pattern you endured, the emotional burden you normalized. They are searching for the places where your strength was forced to grow around pain. Your past becomes their blueprint. Finally, manipulators prefer independent women over insecure ones. This shocks most people, but emotional predators want women who can carry the emotional weight of the relationship for both people. Strong, independent women bring stability, empathy, success, and social value. They make the manipulator look good. They give more than they receive. They don't collapse when the manipulator withdraws. They chase. Insecure women don't supply enough emotional fuel. Strong women supply too much. That's why predators aim higher. Independence also gives the illusion that you can handle him, which keeps you in the cycle longer. Your strength becomes their safety net. Your stability becomes their resource. Your emotional depth becomes their power. By the time you realize this wasn't attraction, it was a strategy. You've already been studied, mirrored, and slowly conditioned to depend on someone who was never real to begin with. Manipulators do not overpower strong women by force. They disarm them. Slowly, strategically, patiently. Every tactic they use is crafted to confuse your intuition, erode your certainty, and make your emotional strength work against you. Their first and most intoxicating weapon is love bombing. But love bombing isn't love. It's emotional intoxication. They overwhelm you with attention, admiration, and intensity so powerful it feels unreal, because it is. They study what you crave emotionally and then deliver it in exaggerated doses. The connection you've never felt, the validation you never received, the vulnerability you've always wanted. It feels like being chosen, seen, understood. But in dark psychology, love bombing has only one purpose: to create a psychological dependency before you know you're being conditioned. Strong women fall for this because they give deeply and love intentionally. When someone mirrors that intensity back, it feels meaningful, not manipulative. Next comes gaslighting, the systematic dismantling of certainty. This is where the manipulator begins rewriting your reality. They deny things you clearly saw. They twist your words. They question your memory. They accuse you of being too sensitive, overthinking, or imagining things. Gaslighting is not about arguing, it's about destabilization. If they can make you doubt your perception, they can make you doubt yourself. And once you begin questioning your own intuition, you start relying on their version of reality. That shift gives them control. Then there is future faking, an illusion so convincing it feels safe. Manipulators craft a future they have no intention of building. They give you the emotional destination, and you start excusing the chaos of the present. Future faking works because strong women are patient. They invest. They believe in potential. A manipulator exploits that hope like a lockpick. Once you're hooked, they introduce withholding affection. This is punishment disguised as distance. The warmth disappears, the attentiveness fades, they go silent, cold, disconnected. The sudden shift reactivates the dependency they built during love bombing. You chase the version of them they showed you at the start, believing you did something wrong. This cycle conditions you to seek their approval, not because it feels good, but because withdrawal feels unbearable. And then comes the most dangerous tactic of all, push-pull conditioning. Push-pull is a psychological loop where affection and rejection alternate unpredictably. Warmth, right arrow withdrawal. Closeness, right arrow coldness. Connection, right arrow silence. This unpredictability creates an emotional roller coaster your brain becomes addicted to. The highs feel euphoric. The lows feel devastating. Your nervous system starts chasing the next high, just to escape the anxiety of the low. This is the same conditioning used in gambling addiction. It is intermittent reinforcement, the most powerful form of behavioral control. And it works exceptionally well on strong women because their emotional endurance is high. They tolerate more before walking away. They fight harder for the connection. They believe in repairing instead of abandoning. But these tactics were never meant to build love. They were meant to break resistance. To bind you to someone who gives just enough to keep you attached and takes just enough to keep you weak. People assume strong women stay with manipulators because they're blinded by love or too forgiving. But the truth is far darker. When a manipulator builds a connection, they don't build love, they build a bond. And that bond is engineered through a psychological system designed to override logic, strength, and even self-protection. This system is called trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is not emotional attachment. It is the result of a reward-punishment loop so unpredictable, so emotionally destabilizing, that your nervous system becomes trapped in a cycle of seeking relief instead of seeking love. The manipulator alternates between warmth and coldness, affection and withdrawal, validation and criticism. This inconsistency keeps you off balance. When they hurt you, it creates anxiety. When they comfort you again, it creates relief. That relief feels like love, but it is actually a biological reward response. You begin associating emotional pain with emotional closeness. This is how trauma bonds form. Your brain starts chasing the high that comes after the low. This is where dopamine addiction enters the picture. The brain releases intense dopamine during the highs, love bombing, affection, closeness, attention. But when the manipulator withdraws or punishes you, the dopamine drops sharply. This is the same neurological pattern found in addictive relationships, gambling addiction, and intermittent reward systems. The scientific term is intermittent reinforcement, one of the most powerful forms of psychological conditioning ever documented. You don't become addicted to the person. You become addicted to the possibility of the high returning. Strong women stay because their emotional endurance makes them believe they can push through the lows to get the high back. They don't recognize that the cycle itself, not the person, is the addiction. Then comes self-blame conditioning. Manipulators are experts at creating confusion and then blaming you for it. They make you responsible for their moods, their reactions, their distance, their inconsistency. Every conflict becomes your fault. Every emotional coldness becomes something you triggered. Every withdrawal becomes something you caused. Slowly, self-doubt replaces certainty. Self-blame replaces boundaries. You start believing you are the reason the relationship hurts. That belief is exactly what keeps you from leaving. Finally, manipulators deliberately engineer attachment. They don't rely on natural connection. They manufacture dependency. They create emotional intensity early on to form a bond. They isolate you emotionally by making you question everyone else. They build cycles where they become the only source of comfort after they create the pain. They offer just enough closeness to keep you believing the good version of them is real. This manipulation is not accidental. It is designed to make you stay long after the relationship stops being healthy. They stay because their strength has been systematically rewired into attachment. And by the time the truth becomes visible, the bond feels stronger than the reality. Leaving a manipulator is not a decision. It is a psychological war. People on the outside assume you can simply walk away, block them, and never look back. But if you've ever been trapped in a cycle with an emotional manipulator, you know the truth. Leaving feels impossible, even when staying is destroying you. That feeling is not weakness. It is psychological conditioning. Manipulators create a bond that bypasses logic and buries itself deep inside your nervous system. They build a dependency that ties your sense of safety, validation, and emotional stability to them, even though they are the source of the instability. The mind becomes addicted to the emotional highs they once gave and terrified of the lows they continue to create. This is why leaving feels like tearing your own identity apart. You're not just leaving a person, you're leaving a chemical loop. When you cut contact, you enter what psychologists call withdrawal. Withdrawal from a toxic attachment mirrors withdrawal from substances. Your brain, conditioned through intermittent reinforcement, reacts violently to the sudden absence of dopamine spikes and emotional intensity. You feel emptiness, anxiety, panic, guilt, restlessness, and a craving for the very person who caused the pain. This is not love. This is chemical dependence. The manipulator knows this. That's why they don't fear losing you. They fear losing control. And they have a strategy for that too. They reactivate emotional dependency the moment you try to pull away. They don't reach out because they miss you. They reach out because they can feel the bond loosening. Manipulators are experts at sensing detachment. When you stop chasing, when you pull back, when you go quiet, they know their supply is at risk. And this activates one of the darkest psychological tools in manipulation: hoovering. Hoovering is a calculated attempt to suck you back into the cycle. It is not affection. It is not regret. It is not change. It is a performance. Hoovering can look like tears, promises, guilt trips, sudden vulnerability, or dramatic declarations of love. The intention is singular: to reattach you emotionally before you regain clarity. They use the version of themselves you fell for, not the one they became. They resurrect the illusion. They bring back the mask. They press on your wounds to reopen them, reminding you of the bond you once felt. And if you respond even once, the entire cycle resets. Breaking free is not about healing. Healing comes later. You are not fighting the relationship. You are fighting the conditioning. Freedom begins the moment you recognize that nothing is wrong with your strength. Your strength was simply weaponized against you.